This is Prep Period, an all-sports podcast by the Ventura County Star and the people at VCS Preps.
Hello and welcome to episode 29 of Prep Period, the Ventura County Star's all preps, all sports podcast. My name is Dominic Massimino. He is Joe Curley. We are sports reporters here at the Ventura County Star, coming to you live here in the early afternoon of March 17th with a show that is just as packed with sports information from the prep side, from the college side as it ever is. Joe, how you doing?
I love when we have one of these and in between season podcasts. We're like, oh, it'd be quick. There's not a lot going on. And then we put the rundown together and it's a full podcast because there's so much happening. It's always something.
Always fun stuff. Yeah, Joe and I were
lot going on.
Joe and I are putting stuff together, and we're like, oh, right, and then we got to talk about that, and oh, shoot, yes, and then there's that huge piece of breaking news that happened like 6 days ago that fits right into our podcast timeline. So lots and lots of stuff to go through today. But first, we're gonna take you to Westwood, which is where I was a couple of days ago on Selection Sunday, checking in with the former Camarillo High star, women's basketball star now, Gabriela Jaquez, who has helped lead UCLA to what we found out on Sunday was the number 2 overall seed in the NCAA tournament this year. They are 31-1 in the regular season. They lost out on what they were hoping was the number 1 overall seed. There was lots of conversation, lots of contention about whether it was going to be them or UConn, undefeated UConn, who was going to get that number 1 overall seed. UCLA has the toughest strength of schedule by a wide margin, but they have this one loss to Texas earlier in the season, and the selection committee goes with UConn. There's lots of boos in the Mo Austin Center, the practice facility for the Bruins when that happened, but at the same time, as we see the bracket released and, the players are, players, fans, coaches are watching up on the big screen, you see that the Bruins have kind of an exciting, possible kind of a revenge tour in this bracket if top seeds kind of win out. They're on the same side of the bracket as Texas, who, like we said, delivered that one loss earlier this season. So a chance to avenge that. And then, they're also on the opposite side, possible meeting in the championship game with UConn, which was the team that knocked them out of the playoffs last season. During, Gabriela Jaquez's kind of coming out party, she hits that huge 3-pointer over Floje Johnson and LSU to put them into their first Final Four last season. And then, they struggled against UConn. So anyway, lots of exciting storylines. We're going to be continuing to cover that. Joe, what's your reaction to just, what Gabriela has done this season for UCLA, kind of following from the sidelines as we have been?
Yeah, I mean, watching as an interested party, right? I mean, I think it just, you see the parallels between the fantastic senior year that her older brother Jaime had that launched him into his NBA career. And you watch Gabriela kind of blossom herself as a potential pro. So,
yeah, should interject there and say she's been mocked as high as, I think the latest CBS Sports mock draft had her at 9, going to my Washington Mystics. So that's exciting. And, we should also say there's 5 UCLA women's basketball players that are in contention for going in the draft this season. So this team is stacked.
Stacked.
It's legitimately stacked. But yeah, I mean, sorry, go ahead. I cut you off, Joe.
What was the atmosphere like, in Westwood? You're going to be spending some time down there, hopefully a lot of time this week. Just what was your first takeaways from, being on a college campus that is immersed in March Madness?
Yeah, it was cool. lots of fans lining up out the door, when I got there to get in and spend some time with the team in a more kind of casual, fun environment. I think there's a lot of like the vibe around the team, I think, is just so much was learned from last season's run, making it as far as any UCLA women's basketball team ever has in the tournament, making it to the Final Four. And it's such a senior-led group there, and there's a lot of seniors on this team, including Gabrielle Jaquez. So there's also kind of this. It's a similar kind of message you'll hear from high school teams in the playoffs who have lots of seniors. There's a real kind of focus on the part of all of the underclassmen, all the non-seniors, I should say, to make this a special year for that senior group that's done so much for the Bruins. So, but I mean, excitement, but also kind of a sense of calm. I mean, Coach Corey Close said, in media availability after they, had the Selection Sunday event that, we've been here before now. We can say that, we've been to this extremely high level. And so our players know how to act, know how to carry themselves through the early rounds of this tournament. We should add UCLA is going to host number 16 Cal Baptist in an all SoCal first round matchup in Pauley Pavilion. First 2 rounds will be at home. So one of the things Gabs said to me on Sunday was, message to all the folks back home in Ventura County. It's not too long a drive to Westwood. Yeah. Come check out the Bruins in person in Pauley Pavilion. I believe it's 7 p.m. That first game on Saturday. So
I'm starting out at Pauley. There's really nothing like it. We play on Saturday. Come out if you can to Pauley Pavilion to support us. So it's always lots of fun, lots of great energy. It really is. It's a historic place. It's a great place. It's and it's 45 minutes without traffic.
It was a very pleasant drive. I'll put it that way.
It's not bad.
Yeah. So
there are worse drives for sure.
This is true. You want to jump ahead to our Deuces stat of the week and into second period?
Let's foreshadow a little here to what we're talking about in the next period.
So this is a true Deuces stat of the week. This was straight from the man, Derry Eads himself.
What's it? Okay.
It was, yeah.
It's a good one.
A very good one. So Charisma Flores, the Oak Park High senior star, became the first girls basketball player in Ventura County history to score at least 500 points in each of her 4 high school seasons playing in the county. A really, really impressive feat of consistency, even though her game has kind of grown over the course of 4 years and morphed and changed, especially this season. She still got there as a scorer, all 4 years. Really impressive talent there at Oak Park.
That's a good one. And don't as we're moving on from the Jaquez story, don't forget to go to vcstar.com and read Dom's awesome story. Camarillo grad Gabriela Jaquez is ready for final shot at NCAA title. It's the first of what we hope will be several stories, bringing you behind the scenes and on one of the bigger stories in Ventura County this year, or I guess outside Ventura County, but involving Ventura County. Right. And also, if you haven't yet, pretty much everybody has voted in the girls' soccer poll, which is ending tomorrow.
Everybody and their grandma has voted in this poll.
It's about to set the record for most votes we've ever seen in one of these polls, which is well in the 6 digits. And it's, so we get a lot of complaints that I've been voting all day and everything's not moving. And it's just, just a reminder that there is a lot of people voting in these polls. So just, make sure and support your people and get your voice heard. And I will say, as somebody who had to pick the all-county team for girls soccer, that it was a bumper crop of talent this year. Could have as many of 3 to 4 really good player of the year candidates. We had a historic season, obviously, with Westlake going all the way to the state championship game, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So, I mean, it really is it's one of the more talent-laden crops that we've had of talent recently. And obviously, girls soccer is one of the biggest sports in Ventura County. So it makes sense. But particularly this senior class. Also, just a hint, they are, I believe, behind the scenes, they're going to hold the senior all-star game this year. Hearing it's not totally done and tied up yet, but the rumors that it's going to be at CLU in a couple weeks. So we will have more on that when that is officially announced. But yeah, and then Dom and I, if we look like we're a little haggard, if we look like maybe we could use a couple more extra hours of sleep, that's because what we like to call all county season right now. We are frantically attempting to finish our 7 features and first teams and second teams. So Dom has already finished all his work because he's the teacher's pet, and he has filed
Damn, you got me.
basketball players of the year and his girls water polo player of the year, which is why we will talk about them today. My wrestling features are complete. They have not published yet, so we will not talk about them. And let's just say I'm working all week on soccer, bud.
Hey, I get a lot of for a teacher's pet. I still get a lot of crap. We'll just put it that way.
Yeah, it's part of the job.
So yeah, perfect segue, Joe. Thanks for that. We're gonna talk about the all county teams and players of the year that have published so far. We won't harp on who wrote those features or who got their stuff out.
who got their stuff done on time.
But yeah, I mean, so if you've seen on our site, we've got a couple of big stories published so far, including we'll start with basketball. So we'll just read through these names first, and then go into a little bit of detail. But Oak Park senior Charisma Flores, there's the segue, and Thousand Oaks senior Dylan McCord were selected as the Ventura County Stars Players of the Year for basketball in the 2025-26 season. So it all goes to the East County this year. The East County wins out on the Player of the Year awards. Flores finished number 4 all-time on the county scoring leaderboard, just 5 points behind Kai Staneland, our 2023 or 2024-25 Player of the Year from Ventura. So those two, 4-year rivals in high school basketball in Ventura County finished just a couple points away from each other. I loved that, kind of poetic. Flores led Oak Park to its first Open Division playoff berth, its first Open Division playoff win in the CIF Southern Section, and a Division I state tournament berth. She saved her, some of her most explosive scoring performances for the biggest games against the best competition. She had 29 points in that 1-point loss to Sage Hill in the Open Division quarterfinals of the Southern Section playoffs. And then she had, at a game I was at in person, one of the more jaw-dropping shooting performances I've seen from any player at any level, frankly. She had 27 points to lead the Eagles. She had 7 threes. She hit every 3 that she took, all 7 in that win, to put away La Jolla Country Day in the first round of the D1 state tournament. So really just a perfect, way of capping an incredible 4-year career for Flores. It's hard to say the undisputed leader of that extremely talented Oak Park team that had Coastal Canyon League Most Valuable Player Maya Deschantel on it, had Diana Sarando blocking shots and being such a presence inside, but she was the engine of that team. Charisma Flores was, and our Player of the Year for 2025-26.
I mean, I think we had a great girls basketball season. I think it's like girls soccer. I think you could make arguments for multiple other candidates for this award. But, I think when you look at Derry's stat and you talk about just the fantastic career that Charisma had over 4 years, I think it would have been a shame if she had graduated and she had not won that award once. So I certainly think she was deserving of the award, as were a couple other people. So yeah, it's always hard to make these tough choices, but I think you made a good one.
Thanks. And then, going to our boys basketball Player of the Year, Dylan McCord sets program records at Thousand Oaks for three-pointers in a season with 113 and three-pointers in a game with 10, which he had in a career-high 43-point outburst on senior night against Newbury Park. Just an electric shooter, scorer of the basketball this season for Thousand Oaks, which spent most of the year as our, ranked among our top few programs. They started the season off 16-0 on that crazy streak, and they make it all the way to the Division I playoffs. One of only two teams for us to do so on the boys' side. So yeah, just an excellent season for him. He was ranked among some of the top players in the country for three-pointers made this season. It was really cool talking to him and head coach Logan Balto about the way that he kind of explored his game after transferring from Calabasas, going into his junior year. He's a senior, was a senior this season. Explored the studio space, so to speak. Tried to create his offense, shooting in the mid-range, tried to create his offense, getting into the lane and distributing, and they kind of realized just what that superpower of his shooting was and what it could do for that team, and they rode that shooting all the way to the D1 playoffs. So heck of a year for Dylan McCord.
So here's a question. I know when we talked about the player lists earlier in basketball season, we talked about how not top heavy, but just there was an elite few girls basketball superstars, and then there was the boys basketball talent was a little more level. How many different boys basketball players did you consider for
that's a good
player
question.
of the year?
That's a really good question. I think I can. I mean, I think
it's the Oscars.
I think
right?
I can come out and say
how many nominees would there have been?
Yeah, I think I can come out and say who some of the players who were in contention for this award. Some of those guys over at Oaks Christian. Brady Sullivan was a star guard for the Lions this season, had an amazing year. The Marmonte League MVP was Andrew Logan. He was kind of the feature of most of my coverage of the Lions this season in person. I found myself writing about him as he's a 6'8" center who locks down the paint for them this season, is also kind of an offensive hub, distributing the ball, like kind of a modern big man. He's was the MVP of the Marmonte League, which this season was one of our most competitive, if not our most competitive. So he was one of the names there. Yeah, you had Logan Stotts, who for Moore Park was our number one ranked player. When we did our midseason player rankings, was an explosive scorer. I think McCord was the perfect combination this season of he had those individual statistics that really kind of make your eyes open wide, but you see him play and you see the way that he impacted winning for that team, and I think that kind of elevated him into that number one spot.
Yeah, and that was the team that for the first half of the year was by far the best team locally, or had the best non-league season. So
I mean, they beat teams like Bishop Alemany and Chaminade. I mean, they beat teams that were kind of
legit teams,
like teams that Ventura County teams just don't beat very often, and to do that as a public school was a super big deal. So just
and then
awesome
today's feature.
Yes,
we got
today's
which
feature.
I think I'm not sure if it's up yet. I saw the water polo list, but story will be up by the time we publish this.
If you're watching live, you might be getting the one of our few live viewers might be the getting the inside scoop. Yeah, our girls water polo player of the year, drum roll, was Oaks Christian goalie Alexander Stoddard. This one was kind of a no-brainer. We wrote about her. We talked about her on this podcast a couple weeks ago with head coach Jack Coker, just what she's done for that program. She blocks 3 5-meter penalty shots over a 2-game span in the CIF Southern Section Open Division semifinals and finals, 2 in the championship game against Mater Dei. One of which was, kind of the pivotal moment in that game. The Oaks Christians trailing 8-7. She, blocks that 5-meter penalty at the end of the third period, and then, that kind of sets the Lions off in the fourth. They go on this crazy run offensively. She was truly the anchor of that defense. Making everything happen. Talking to Coker about his star goalie. He's we're doing this Player of the Year interview, and he's like, damn, the more we talk, like, I'm just like, what am I gonna do next year without her? Like, and I'm like, sorry, coach, sorry to be the one make you thinking about this, but Stoddard, just an amazing season. The Canadian, her host family, interesting detail, is the Fabroses, including Mia Fabros, our 2024-25 Player of the Year, also from Oaks Christian, also a current teammate of Stoddard. So, our last two Players of the Year for girls water polo living under the same roof here for the end of their senior season. And keep an eye out for Stoddard, maybe in a SoCal pool near you in the next couple of years. She's an Olympic hopeful for the Canadian national team right now. We'll probably find out in the next year or so who's going to be on that team. But yeah, a name you should keep an eye out for the foreseeable future.
And that would be interesting. Or she's a Princeton commit, so she's going to Princeton. And don't forget that she's also being coached by Amanda Longan, who's one of the two U.S. women's water polo goalkeepers. So Amanda Longan, another Oaks Christian graduate, Moorpark kid. And then also the men's water polo team, the USA men's water polo team, obviously, Adrian Weinberg is also. So it's kind of like goal. It's like
goalkeeper
Oaks Christian is, it's kind of
goalkeeper you.
Water polo goalkeeper you. So that would give us another local in the Olympics coming up in a couple of years. So that would be interesting. So we'll monitor that.
Keep your eyes out. Keep your eyes out for everything Joe's got coming, or we've got coming in the next couple of days.
So, girls wrestling post tomorrow, Wednesday. So about today, if you're watching this on Wednesday, boys wrestling Thursday, and then the soccers will follow on Friday and Saturday. Wrestling is in the can. I'm going to spend the rest of my day working on soccer. And then let's quickly, we spent the entire episode last week talking about Westlake girls soccer. So let's let people know, if you haven't been to our website, what happened. I enjoyed Friday night where I get to sit home and watch the game on TV and do our blog and, just watch an incredible soccer game. The two goalkeepers, Sierra Spencer and Emma Henze, put on a clinic of big time save making in the biggest game or one of the biggest games that's ever been played in high school soccer in California. Obviously, very first year of the state championships. The Division II championship game went to overtime. Westlake fell to Santa Rosa Valley 1-0 in I believe the 88th minute. Sierra Spencer's shutout streak ended at about 365 minutes. So essentially they went 6 hours without conceding a goal.
Wow.
6 hours of open play in the CIF state tournament. So just a tremendous job by Spencer and her back four and the two holding mids and Frankie Marino and that whole group.
A back four that includes so many that will be coming back, right? We learned
freshman, sophomore, junior.
Incredible.
They only lose Spencer and they only lose KK Chiwana. Go read that story if you have. Honestly, like sometimes you have a losing final and people don't read the story. That's one of my best stories of the year because I got KK Chiwana on the phone in Thailand talking about her sister and her teammates and what it's like for her to be watching from afar. And I was like, do you have FOMO? And she's like, I haven't had a chance to get FOMO because we keep FaceTiming.
Yeah.
They FaceTime me in the locker room after the regional final. They FaceTime me at the banquet. They FaceTime me when they got to Sacramento. So even though she wasn't able to play, they brought her along hand in hand. And obviously KK's having her own incredible experience. She played in Turkey against, off the top of my head, they beat for the Thailand under 20 national team, which is trying to qualify for the World Cup, the under 20 World Cup, which is in Poland later this year. They beat Jordan. They beat someone else who escapes me, and then they lost 1-0 to Russia. And now she's back in. They're going to actually play the qualifying matches to try to get to Poland. So, and those games are on YouTube. You can find them actually if you want to follow KK. And obviously, she's really fun to watch. And she's playing. It's not like they're stuffing her at in defense or in midfield. Like she's playing in an attacking position. She's playing her role.
Wow.
So I mean, just a fantastic player. Obviously, it was a big blow for Westlake not to have their kind of offensive talisman going, through the state playoffs, but it shows you just how much talent there is in that program that they're able to still not just get to the final, not just compete in the final, but draw, get to overtime. And honestly, Grace Wetzel played phenomenal, and Emma Hensey stole a couple game-winning goals from her. Like Westlake, honestly, if it wasn't for the Cal commit, the other team's goalkeeper, they would have won the Division II state championship even without, their generational attacker up front. So, tremendous job for the Warriors. And this is a program that has been to, what was it, 5 or 6 straight CIF semifinals.
Six,
So,
I think he said. Yeah.
Six. Yeah, he corrected me last week, right? So, so they'll be back. And like you said, they only lose a couple seniors.
Yeah.
So
we say only, but some of those names that you rattled off when
yeah.
you said they're leaving is like, incredible players.
The backup keeper's great. I watched them train last week to prepare for this, and the backup keeper's great. And Cece will be there to follow in her sister's cleat steps, and she'll be a better player as a sophomore. And because KK wasn't KK as a freshman, so
right.
I'm sure they'll be fine. And there's always, like I said, great talent coming through. So I'm sure the only issue is they're going to be back in the Marmonte League, playing Oaks Christian and playing Newbury Park and playing all those great teams. So we can cross that bridge next year when we come to it, but I'm sure Westlake will be in the mix.
Something that really impressed me when we spoke with the Westlake players with Coach Marino was like, you could, in a moment like that when your best player goes and follows follows a dream and has to leave you guys behind in such a key moment, like there could be hard feelings there. And I was just so impressed by how much it seemed like that team, like you said, they're still loaded with talent, behind her, but how much that team was seemed both supportive of that and weren't crestfallen, didn't say, okay, well, whatever, like we're without our best player, like we're not gonna keep going. They win out in the state regional tournament. Yeah. Just really impressive, like testament to the character there, it seemed like.
I mean, nobody carries the flag for high school soccer more than me. I mean, I'll argue, on this podcast if we need to, the value of high school soccer versus obviously the club game, is there's all kinds of reasons, why the club game, is important. But, when you play for your high school, you play for your school, there's something there that you don't have, that these players don't have at other levels, that they don't have when they play for their club. But I mean, she's playing for her family's national team. I mean, and this is the goal of every soccer player is to do what those baseball players are doing right now in the WBC, or, I mean, and it's a potential chance for her to put a foothold in with the full national team and get her, she's 8,000 miles away in California. They don't always get a chance to see her. So she gets to go to Thailand and be seen and, help her country, so I'm sure the FOMO was probably on the other side a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's everybody was totally cool with, the decisions that were made. And, it was funny. I was asking KK questions and, I wanted her emotion. I wanted her, and she's like, I'm super excited about playing for Thailand. And, I'm following my teammates, but, I can't be in two places at once. And so, it is what it is. And it was like a split set, like the closest margin away from, being the perfect outcome, them still winning without her.
Yeah.
So they got, they had a historic run to be unforgettable. And one more thing before we move on, the reviews about the state championship were ultimately good. They had a great time. The event was well produced. So you add a week on to the soccer season, and there wasn't a lot of criticism about it. So all in all, I'm sure it'll be better in years 2, 3, and 4. But I mean, I'm really happy. They need to do that in baseball and softball and some of the other sports that end at the regional, the regional level as well.
For sure. Good recap. Just really quickly, we're going to talk through a piece of news that we broke midway through the week in basketball, going back to basketball. So, if you followed our coverage, we were there in person when Oaks Christian, won the Marmonte League title, winning the outright title in back-to-back seasons in a 49-40 victory over Westlake earlier this season on senior night. The news broke that Oaks Christian was going to be forfeiting that Marmonte League title after it self-reported that an ineligible player had played in 5 games for the Lions, including 3 league games, one against Agora, one against Newbury Park, and one in that pivotal win over Westlake on senior night. So, all 5 of those games would be forfeited, including those 3 league games, which had huge ramifications on, the playoff hunt out of an extremely competitive Marmonte League and the Marmonte League title. So Westlake is the new Marmonte League champion for this season. It's their first, I believe, in something like 4 years. It's their first since they tied with Oaks Christian in the 2023-24 season, and their first outright title since 2020. So Oaks Christian drops down to like 5-5 in league. I think their record ended up being, which one of the things that was kind of most frustrating, I think I would characterize it for some of the rest of the coaches in this league, is you had a Marmonte League, a race in the Marmonte League for that third and final playoff qualifying spot. Had this been reported earlier, had it been discovered earlier and reported, then Oaks Christian would have dropped down, to 4th place, which is where Thousand Oaks, a program we were talking about earlier on in this show, finished and had to search for an at-large bid this season. They could have missed out on the playoffs. So there were some, luckily they did get that at-large bid, but some positions would have been kind of swapped in that race, conceivably. But yeah, you have, it's something that head coach Mark Amaral from Oaks Christian, really emphasized in our reporting of this story, was that, this player played in very few games, played very few minutes in those games. And, he maintained that, the rules are the rules, I believe was the quote. And they're going to, they respect those rules, will abide by those rules, but, maintained that his team won those games and had their heads held high, I think was the way it was characterized. So just leaves kind of a kind of funny feeling about this Marmonte League race this season after such a fun year with so many competitive games. Joe, did you have any reaction to this when you heard about this, read the story?
Yeah, I mean, we had the same thing happen a couple weeks ago, right, in soccer. So, or not the same thing, but a similar thing.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it's never, I thought your story, not the first time we've said this episode, but go back and read Dom's story. I thought he did a really good job because he interviewed other coaches in the league, and they had some really interesting reactions. So I thought that was a really, I think you approached the story. Not that I learned something, but I think it was, I would have approached it differently, and I think you approached it better than I would have. And so I think that was a good, I was reading it and I was like, oh yeah, Dom did a good job with this because, a lot of times, like when it happened with Calabasas, I interviewed Calabasas and I also interviewed Channel Islands, but I put it at the end. And so it was kind of like an afterthought by the time you get to the bottom of the story. But, I just thought it was a really well-reported piece. And it's difficult to handle these things because we don't like to mention the kid because he's a minor, and we don't, and it's, we don't want their names to be on the internet for the end of all time, having, being associated with something like this. And so it's tough to do with, kind of community journalism, but I thought you handled it well. And, it's a reminder that, these things happen and that you have to, when they happen, you have to step up and report them. And, I thought, the Oaks people did a good job.
Yeah.
being available to it, not just, like the Calabasas AD and coach answered the phone about it for me. So,
Yep.
I think, both of those athletic departments, even though obviously it's kind of you don't want that to happen. I thought they handled themselves under fire well.
Yeah.
So
Ditto to all of that. Nothing to add. It's just, yeah. When you make those mistakes, you own up to them, and we'll, if there's anything else to report on this story, we will in terms of ramifications. But it sounds like the games are forfeited, the teams that it impacted were notified, and keep moving forward.
I'm gonna wrap up on the upside here with
end on a positive
very
note.
cool. It's something that we've been covering every March these last couple of years as our fantastic high school track stars go on to the college level. What do you got to tell me about NCAA track?
It really it's every year now there are Ventura County, former Ventura County runners who are or jumpers in the case of Tara Davis Woodall, we should add, but who are just making waves at the college level, at the professional level, at the Olympic level. But yeah, the NCAA Indoor Championships took place this past weekend, and you had two, former distance stars, people our readers are very familiar with in Newbury Park star Colin Sahlman and former Ventura star Sadie Engelhardt. So Sahlman now at NAU, he's a senior. He's had just a remarkable season. We mentioned it earlier, sets the NCAA record for the 800 meters, a 36-year-old record at the Millrose Games this year. He runs 1:44.80, I think that time was. And you're expecting him to go and contest that race at the NCAA championships and go chase more records, chase his first title in the event that he is the collegiate record holder in. And he shocked some people by scratching the 800, scratching the mile, the two events that he has been kind of most known for at the college level. And instead, he anchors the distance medley relay to a title with a 3:59, 1,600 meters, just short of a mile, to win that NCAA title, his first NCAA title. He did it with his teammates in that relay. And then he comes back and races the 3K, which is, an event that he just recently hasn't really been known for, and he sticks his nose in it, and ends up being a very controversial race. He takes the lead at the bell, with one lap to go. In indoor races, that's 200 meters to go, so near the finish. And then with 100 to go, you have Villanova's Marco Langen, who's a big personality. He's been kind of carved out a name for himself this year with some feisty comments and fun interviews. He makes a pass on the outside, right beside New Mexico star Habtom Samuel, and there's some pushing, some shoving. You see Sahlman kind of stagger a little bit on that final curve going into the final 50 meters of this race, the home stretch. And Langen fades. You see Sahlman start to fade, and Habtom Samuel, the New Mexico star, goes ahead and wins at the line. You just got scared by your dog, Joe.
Oh boy, hang on, mute.
Yeah. And so you have what looks like a very narrow second place finish for Sahlman. Lots of sportsmanship after the finish line. The three guys, all give each other. We gotta clip that. Oh my god, the dog with the paws out. You have lots of sportsmanship showed.
Ejected.
Lots of sportsmanship shown between those three. But then, they find out shortly afterwards, Sahlman gives interviews afterwards thinking that he's placed second in this race. And then they find out afterwards there was a protest, and Habtom Samuel was disqualified for, that pushing, shoving. There was a lot of contact between all three runners. I mean, Sahlman never, moved his arms or pushed or really protected his space, but between the other two runners in that little kerfuffle, unfortunately for New Mexico, Samuel is disqualified, and Sahlman is the NCAA champion in the 3,000 meters. So, just an amazing meet for him. He gets his first two NCAA titles. Really a coming out party that stretches all the way back to the World Championship, the USA Championships essentially the trials for the World Championships last season when he ran so well in that 800, made the final as just some college kid, and so pretty impressive stuff. And I'd like to write something about Colin sometime soon. not to give away our strategy, but
so Sahlman ran a 7:41, and Nico Young, when he won the 3K Indoor National Championship, 7:41.
Wow. So, what other similarities are there between Nico Young and Colin Sahlman?
Exactly. So congratulations to Coleman.
Wow. The first name and the last
Colin.
name together. Okay. Coleman.
My dog is sending me into a spiral here.
She's just telling you to finish all your features, Joe.
That's right. Yeah. Barking over my shoulder. Sounds familiar. So congratulations to Colin, and really excited to see what he does during outdoor.
And yes, me too. And that wasn't the only huge performance by a local. Like we said, Sadie Engelhardt, a freshman at NC State, she gets her first taste of NCAA championship tactical, strategic racing. And that was very much on display in the women's mile final. They go out at what is a very pedestrian pace for these girls. The collegiate record's 4:20. They go out at 5-minute mile pace for this mile for the first 3/4 of the race, trotting along. It's going to be fast at the end. Engelhardt is in a very tough position. She's near the back of the pack, completely boxed in the back. And, racing, for the track people who know, like, racing is on these indoor banked tracks, 200 meters, there's just not a lot of space to maneuver. Those straightaways are only 50 meters long instead of 100 meters on a regular 400 meter track. So positioning in indoor track can be so important. Sadie's near the back. They hit the bell lap, and she just takes off, with the rest of the field. She closes in the fastest time of anyone in this field, 28 seconds, .44 in the final 200 meters. Gets right up, amongst the front pack, doing some maneuvering in that final lap. But she finishes a narrow third in this race, makes the podium. She, gives an interview afterwards, said she's a little frustrated, came in thinking that, she could win this one, and clearly, she was in contention to win it, but made kind of, quote unquote, kind of a position kind of error there, she said. So, lessons learned, and that's championship racing for you. She's got a lot more to come for her over the next few years.
Well, especially, indoor, right? Seems like that, so
it's a different animal.
It's a different race. Yeah,
absolutely.
You're in a constant kind of circle, and there's not as much straightaway, and
you should say, though,
strategically different.
She is about as experienced as they come when it comes to a freshman at this level on indoor tracks. She set the national record indoors this past season. We covered that. So she is experienced, but she immediately knew, kind of sounds like, what could be fixed, and what she's going to learn from this one. So, but still, making, as she said, making a podium, making the top 3 in her first national championship race on the track, just a huge deal. So, that's our exciting news from NCAA indoors. So much NCAA stuff happening right now. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Joe, you got anything else to plug?
No, we'll have some baseball and softball stuff hopefully next week. When I get through all county, we'll take a look at where our baseball players are headed as we get toward the end of spring training, who's going to big league camp, who's going to the minor leagues. And we've got a couple big lacrosse players doing some stuff, and so there's all kinds of there's a lot of local chatter we can chat about, but always love catching up with our track superstars. It's just amazing to see them start as, I remember getting emails about Sadie when she was in middle school, and now she's lived up to all that hype and more. So anyway, now she's
cool.
freshman of the year, and
Yeah, in the Ace. Yeah, I went through, when we were covering Tara Davis Woodall's return and hosting the Tara Davis invite a couple weeks ago. I went back to read some of the stuff and saw some of your stories. So saw some of your stories about her, and cool to see. It's a reminder of how special this job can be, being a part of kind of just putting that history to paper and memorializing those incredible performances. And we got a lot more special track athletes coming down. So, stay tuned for all of that coverage. Stay tuned for our all county coverage, read those player of the year features, vote in our polls, read our coverage of, March Madness as it continues, and just stay tuned here. VCS Preps, man, we got everything you need.
Yeah, and we'll have baseball and softball and maybe something else rankings next week.
Awesome. All right, guys, have a good week. Till next time.
It comes down to this for Thousand Oaks in their season. It is a gift to Martin. Martin gets the first down and more. It's a nice little screen to the left-hand side. One play, and see ya later. Caldera dives into the end zone. Touchdown, Oxnard. What a fitting way to end that run. He's at the 40. He's at the 20. 10.